Welcome back to Fast Market, everyone. Kevin Hinks and Alex Coffey back for our second segment of the show. Now I'd like to bring in the Vice President of Research at LikeFolio.com, Miss Megan Brantley, to the show. She's going to look at our second name of the day and a general look at social media. Megan, welcome to the show. We have a lot going on today with social media, and you guys are breaking it all down for us. Tell me what you have on not only Meta platforms, but Pinterest and YouTube and Snap. What do you have here in social media today, Megan?
Yeah, so I think for us, the big question was, is this report out of Snap? Is this something indicative that all of these different, social platforms should be worried about? Or is Snap kind of sitting in a different boat? And whenever we break this down, at least according to our consumer metrics, so what consumers are talking about using, what social platforms they like, we definitely see some divergence in performance. Just overall, from a usage perspective, we see Instagram performing really well with some pretty strong year-over-year growth. We actually see Pinterest doing really well. It's actually gaining some momentum after losing steam from the pandemic highs. And we see TikTok doing really well. I don't think that this is necessarily a surprise, the Instagram and the TikTok. I think Pinterest may be a surprise for some people to see that resurgence in growth, which is a good sign. But then on the flip side, you see Snapchat kind of losing momentum with consumers, and then Facebook at the very bottom. So a little bit of a mixed bag for Meta, but it's a good thing that they have Snap or they have Instagram in their arsenal, because Instagram is doing really well. I think, though, then to take this a step further, we have to ask ourselves about the utility of all of these social platforms and the effectiveness of advertising on these platforms. And I think that that's really where things differentiate. Whenever you think of something like Pinterest, it makes sense that a user would want to, go seek online essentially a shopping catalog of things that they could buy. So, this alignment in terms of advertising makes sense. With Snapchat, I think it feels a little bit more forced. It feels a little bit more intrusive. How they introduce ads in the middle of conversations. When you think about what Snapchat's used for, it's people who are talking to each other. Can you guys imagine if Meta was inserting ads in Facebook Messenger or in WhatsApp in a messaging app? It just doesn't seem to make sense. So I think from our data, at least, there's definitely a separation from the apps that seem to be a strong fit for advertising and also for usage. So, the Instagrams, the Pinterest and the TikToks of the world versus something like a Snapchat.
Megan, you're literally making the exact point I just made in the last segment, in the sense of how intrusive these ads are. And I think that your consumer happiness comparison does a really, really good job of just kind of rank ordering these in the way of which an ad is intrusive or not, or in the case of Pinterest, maybe even welcomed. You see 76% consumer happiness for Pinterest because an ad is not intrusive. It's actually desired in that experience. The issues with Pinterest are demographic. It's user growth. They just don't have as wide of a webcast as some of these other ones. In the case of YouTube, of course, under the Alphabet umbrella, you're consuming longer form content. Therefore, a 15, 20, 30-second ad, maybe not ideal. It's less intrusive if I'm about to spend the next 25 minutes or 10 minutes watching something. To me, the big question now is those next two, in which you just described what I talk about with Snapchat, of course, that the ads don't make any sense. TikTok seems to have implemented a lot of the same things that have worked really well with Instagram, embedding ads, embedding curated content towards the user. To me, though, it also seems to kind of steal the spotlight for a use case the same way as Snap did. You can communicate and send content to your friends on there, from what I understand. But some of the things that Snap was trying to build out, shows, things with influencers, just makes more sense on TikTok. So to me, that's the big one to circle. I know it doesn't really have a publicly traded way to get involved with, but how important has this TikTok effect been over the last year?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point. And I think that one thing that TikTok is doing is it's proving that it can add value to the brand. Another way that we can analyze this is, we listen for these mentions of these different social platforms in other companies' earnings releases. So, for example, I think on the Williams-Sonoma release, I was listening to that earnings call, and they called out TikTok specifically, saying TikTok is helping us expand our audience, reach new audience members, but also is adding a new aesthetic. music. So it's ingesting new creativity and new design ideas. So it's adding something else and bringing something else to the table that maybe Snapchat really wasn't doing. And TikTok seems like a more natural place for creators to, express these new ideas, because it's almost more of like an entertainment. And so whenever you're, scrolling through TikToks, you're entertained, you trust these people, and you're generating ideas. Similar concept with Pinterest generating ideas. I think that, you're actively seeking out that content. And another thing we're watching is even the switch of search from users. So this is kind of like a bigger concept, but when you think about, let's say you're going to visit a new restaurant, where are you researching about that restaurant? A lot of people are going to Instagram. They're looking up pictures and tagged photos of people who have been to this restaurant or are wearing this brand to see how it works out. So I think that there's a lot of other natural alignments in those platforms, and that's really the differentiator from a Snapchat, who's really that discovery platform just did not take off for them.
Megan, when I look at your scatter chart here of purchase intent versus sentiment, and I look at your other charts, what jumps out to 61-year-old Kevin is age demographics, right? And how do age demographics play in to all these names? Because Snapchat, their average age is like 11 to 15, right? And then Instagram seems to have captured the middle, and TikTok seems to have captured the middle. And then Facebook's for us old guys, us old parents putting up pictures of their kids. So how does the age demographic play into some of these names?
Yeah, I think that that's definitely another kind of negative feather in Snapchat's hat. Just a younger audience demographic may not have the spending power of some of the platforms that capture an older demographic. I think it'll be important to see how this demographic changes for Snapchat over time. But definitely for now, that's not necessarily good if your average audience is in the teens, from a spending power perspective, at least.
Exactly right. It creates big problems. I mean, can you imagine trying to get an 11-year-old to spend money on your platform? It's probably virtually impossible. Megan Brantley, thank you so much for coming on and giving us LikeFolio's powerful data on social media. It always does a great job of showing exactly what we're looking at in these names. Megan, have a great weekend. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Alex.